Welcome back to the channel, boys. Fablinski's coming at your neck with this elemental shards build. Now with this build, we're going to utilize the brand new mod this season, elemental shards. Now what this does is it makes it so any stasis shards now counts as an elemental well for you. So it'll proc things such as Font of Might and Font of Wisdom. So with that in mind, we're going to use Glacial Harvest on the Warlock. We're going to use Bleak Watcher Aspect so we can have stasis turrets. We're using Veritys Brow. And we also have another new seasonal mod, which is Elemental Time Dilation. Now I'll get to that in a moment, so let's just go ahead and get to this build. So obviously for this build, we're going to be on Shadebinder. Our two aspects of choice are Bleak Watcher, so we can keep spawning those stasis turrets. We're going to have some stasis turret spam so we can keep freezing a lot of enemies, and so we can spawn more stasis shards. That's where Glacial Harvest comes in. This allows me to spawn stasis shards, which is going to get my whole build going, because now those stasis shards count as elemental wells for this build. As for my fragments, we're utilizing Whisper of Conduction. Nearby stasis shards now track to my position, which is fantastic, so now I don't have to actually run around and pick up all these stasis shards. And we're also using Whisper of Shards. Shattering your stasis crystal temporarily boosts your grenade recharge rate. I am using a Vulpecula with Outlaw Headstone, so whenever I do get those precision kills and it spawns that stasis crystal, once I shatter it, I get that bonus recharge rate to my grenade energy, which is going to feed into my grenade spam for this build, which is going to allow me to spawn more stasis shards. Now we're also using Whisper of Fissure, so whenever I do break the stasis crystals or my melee or any type of stasis burst is going to do more damage and it has a bigger radius. And then we're also using Whisper of Torment, so I gain grenade energy each time I take damage from targets. As for my loadout, there's only one perk that's very necessary for this build, which I just went over just a moment ago, which is Headstone. Now you want to have Headstones, that way you can create these stasis crystals and you can shatter them and get that grenade recharge rate bonus. I believe it, well, obviously you can get on Vulpecula, and I believe it can roll on the Peacebound or the Iron Banner sidearm. I think it's called Peacebound, and it can go on Reed's Regret. So you want to have a weapon with Headstone, because that's going to make this build work very well, and it's going to increase the efficiency. You're going to get a lot of grenades using Headstone, because once you shatter it, again, you're going to get that grenade recharge rate. So it's very important to have a weapon with Headstone. As for your other two weapons, you can use whatever you'd like. I'm just using Null Composure and 1K because I do have on Particle Deconstruction. So if you don't want to use that, you can use a rocket, you can use Reed's Regret if you want, you can do whatever you want really. So just as long as you have a weapon with Headstone, it's the only thing that matters. Now there are two main important stats for this build: recovery and discipline. I happen to have 100 to recovery and 92 discipline. I wanted to get my discipline stat to 100, but my Veritys Brow isn't really rolled that well, so I had to make do with what I had here. But honestly, I feel like it's more important to have the 100 recovery stat, because we have a lot of ways to generate grenade energy win this build anyway, such as the Whisper of Shards. I have Innervation on. Just picking up the stasis shards now count as elemental wells, so I get ability energy for doing that. Taking damage is going to generate grenade energy. Veritys Brow is going to generate grenade energy. So honestly, I just wanted to be the most min-maxed as possible, but as long as you have 100 recovery for this build, you're going to be fine. So I actually want to start with the bond this time before I go all the way up to my helmet, because of this mod right here, Elemental Time Dilation. Elemental well mods that grant you time limited benefits can now stack, increasing the duration of the effect for each copy of the mod you have equipped. So pretty much once you have this mod slotted, if you're using something like Font of Wisdom or Font of Might in my case, the more stacks of Fonts of Might you have, the longer the duration is going to be. So I believe that with one Font of Might mod on, it's 10 seconds, that 25% damage buff to whatever the matching subclass element type is. But with more stacks of Fonts of Might, like for example, I have 3 stacks of it on, so I have 20 seconds of Fonts of Might active for this build. So pretty much I can just run around, keep getting those stasis shards. Once the stasis shards cooldown ends, I still have Fonts of Might procced. I can pick up another stasis shard, and it's going to again give me that refresh on the 20 seconds of 25% extra damage. So this is a really good mod for any type of passive bonus like Fonts of Might, Fonts of Wisdom. I've been having a lot of fun with it. You guys gotta try it and get it. And my other mod on my bond is Particle Deconstruction. You guys already know how crazy this thing is. So now that I got the bond out of the way and you can understand the rest of this build and why I am stacking Fonts of Might, let's go ahead and start with the helmet. We're utilizing Veritys Brow. Now this recently got a rework. It now states that weapon final blows with a damage type matching your subclass energy grant death throws, which provides a grenade damage bonus and grants you grenade energy. When you have death throws active and throw a grenade, nearby allies gain greatly increased regeneration for a short time. Before, it used to state that it was just energy weapons. So now it has to actually be matching your subclass element type, but because of that, I believe that now for each stack of death throws, it's 20% extra grenade damage. So now once you have 5 stacks of death throws, you're getting 100% extra grenade damage for, obviously more offensive oriented grenades. For stasis, it really doesn't matter that much, but if you're using something like handheld supernova, yeah, this thing can actually nuke enemies. I'm going to create a build with that in the future, so definitely be on the lookout for that. But we're using this because I want the extra grenade energy. It's going to feed into my grenade spam for this build. And like I stated earlier, now we're going to use fonts of might. So we have 1 stack on my helmet. So now once I pick up those stasis elemental wells, or the stasis shards in my case, it's going to give me that 25% damage buff to stasis weapons. Now moving on to my gauntlets, we're utilizing grenade kickstart. So whenever my grenade energy is fully expended, I gain grenade energy in return. And we're also using elemental shards. I did go over this, but real quick, stasis shards count as stasis elemental wells for you. It does not apply to Crucible, Trials, or Iron Banner. On my chest piece, the main important mod again is Font of Might. So that is 2 stacks of Font of Might here. This is going to increase the duration once again because I have 2 stacks of it now, which is going to allow me some flexibility when it comes to picking up the stasis shards, because there is a cooldown as to how often you can actually proc the elemental shards mod. So having a longer duration is going to allow me to bypass that cooldown and still allow me to have the damage buff and then pick up another stasis shards, which will then refresh the damage buff once again. And moving on to my legs, we're using innervation. So whenever I do pick up these orbs of power, I get grenade energy in return, and then 1 more stack of fonts of might. So now I have 3 stacks of fonts of might, which will make it so that my Fonts of Might buff lasts for 20 seconds. So for 20 seconds, I have 25% damage buff to stasis weapons, which pretty much makes it so my Vulpecula can one-tap any ad. I can spawn those stasis crystals, shatter them, get the grenade recharge bonus from doing so, and just get my whole build going, spawn more stasis shards, picking those up, get Fonts of Might, get abilities in return. Oh man, this build is fantastic. It's simple but awesome. And onto my Warlock fashion, I wanted to go with like a more winter vibe because we're going to be freezing so many things and we have like stasis turrets and everything. So I went with this chest piece right here because I feel like it kind of gives that vibe off the most. You guys already know how I feel about Verity's Brow. This thing is absolutely hideous, but yet it is just such a good exotic. So let's go ahead and see my ornaments and my shaders. Here are all my shaders and here are all my ornaments. So if you want to recreate this fashion, you're more than welcome to do so. So this build is definitely on the more simple side of some of the builds I've created, but I would say it is just as effective, if not even more effective, because you don't really have to change the way you play. You don't have to try and play a certain way. All you have to do is have on obviously the Bleak Watcher aspect and Glacial Harvest and the mods, and that's it. You don't have to like try to get a melee kill. You don't have to try to do something. Just freeze enemies, pick up the stasis shards, and boom, you have Font of Might procced. Then you're getting the headshot kills of Vulpecula, which is going to spawn the stasis crystals. You're going to shatter those anyway because you're going to be shooting in that direction. You're going to be killing a bunch of ads. You're going to blow up the stasis crystal. It's going to do more ad clear. You're going to get the temporary bonus to your grenade recharge rate. Then you're going to get your grenade back and you're going to keep that cycle going. So honestly, it's simple, but it is extremely effective and it's just simply fun. Like, I love Headstone. Headstone has to be one of my favorite perks now because it's just so cool getting the kill, shattering the stasis crystal, or first you're gonna see it spawn up and it looks really cool. You're gonna shatter it, you're gonna get the Whisper of Shards proc, which is gonna give you your grenade back faster, and not to mention that thing has some pretty good damage once you do shatter it, so it has some extra ad clear on top of it. I'm definitely gonna keep experimenting with these new stasis elemental well mods and with Headstone because I feel like they have a lot of synergy together, and plus all these stasis shards now count as elemental wells and this and that and time dilation, and there's a couple of other ones I just dropped. So I'm very excited to build craft, test some things out, and definitely make a little bit more complicated build, because although this is really simple and effective and it's just simply fun, I love my complicated builds, or not necessarily complicated, but ones that require a little bit more of a thought process. So if you know anybody that just kind of likes to play, doesn't really have to try to cater their playstyle towards a specific build, definitely recommend this build to them. Tell them what they need or show them this video, because this will definitely add to their ad clear and they're gonna start to see, you know, what a build can do. Maybe this kind of piques their interest a little bit, and maybe they start crafting a build that requires a little bit more thought process, one it's a little bit more complicated, and maybe they start to have more fun and they become a build crafter like myself. So definitely recommend this build to anybody who's just starting out with building and they're at that point where, you know, they're not just throwing on their highest light, they're starting to worry about what kind of mods they want to use. Very simple but very effective. Everybody should try this build out, you know, whether you like the more complicated builds or you like the simple builds or you don't like builds at all. I would say give this a shot because it's just increasing your weapon damage, which is then just going to get your whole build going, because who doesn't aim for the head, right? Everybody aims for the head, which is going to proc headstone, which is then you're going to shatter that and your whole build just starts going from there. So definitely try this out. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I hope you guys enjoyed. But if you guys like this content, please like, subscribe, and share. It truly helps me out a lot. You can also check out my other videos, links are in the description below. I have a lot of crazy builds, so go ahead and check that out. And you might as well follow my social media. I have a Twitter and an Instagram, both at fat_bloonskis. But with all that being said, deuces.